Alrighty, hello everyone. I got another raid of full platinum with a different set of side quests, which I was hoping to get recorded. Always manage to forget to record. Uh, all the time. I always forget. I actually have to have someone tell me, and they forget all the time too. It's not something you usually think about before you actually do it. But I've been thinking about it a lot, how I wanted to try to get all the different side quests. So, as luckily I hit the record button at the tail end of this quest. Um, the order we got here was we started on the center, and then we went to the east and back to the west. So we got Vandals in the tower, and the western wall is different from the last upload I got. A lot of people don't like Vandals in the tower. I don't like it either, but it's going for all the points and what. If you're going for all the points and whatnot, it's pretty important to try to, just to max out your points. You're gonna have to do it eventually. Crazy about that Van the order I got. Some you can just have it divide up 4 by 4 or whatever, like how I usually do, but just so that people really have to be at the right spot ahead of time in order to get a worry-free running. So what I do is I have a group of 2, which is me and one other healer, preferably. We are in the left tower, left center tower. That side doesn't get hit very bad at all. 4 people. One 4 group of people down at the culvert defending that area. 3 can usually get away with it, but I like to have 4 just to be certain. If you have 3 people that are confident with their DPS, then feel free to just have 3 down there. But I've had it where there's 3 and they get overwhelmed, so I like having 4. And the other 6 are in the right-hand tower. That side gets hit the hardest. So I make sure that they're there ahead of time, make sure that, a lot of people tend to not really know which tower is which, so you really got to be specific. Or you don't have to be. A lot of people generally know it, but I generally don't run with the same people over and over. A lot of times I'll have like half the raid as people just pulled from world chat. So I make sure that everyone knows what they're going to be doing. But yeah, make sure people are dropping tripwires in the windows and in the entryway to the door, and just, raise hell with them that way. I like to make sure I have healers in each of the groups. It's not mandatory, but it's RKs, especially because the winches in the back are a nightmare. But it works, so do what you can. But I like having it set up like this. Now at this point in time, as you can see, I divide it back up into groups of 4 because that's the only real side quest you have to divide up like that. And in case you haven't noticed, it did not record my voice or the game at all, other than the other players' voices when they talk. I don't know what the heck. If anyone has any tips for how to make that not do that, that'd be great, because I probably talk too much while doing this raid, I don't know, but I'm constantly giving out orders. A lot of people, I generally got about a good group of 4 or 5 that run this with me all the time, but they understand the importance of, you really gotta harp on the fact that the soldiers on the wall, if they regenerate health, it is so incredibly slow that if they are not getting any heals or anything, they're going to be dying. I mean, they really need to have constant heals, constant DPS that shield those 4. I just run the gauntlet on them. I give them 4 orders at the same time. They all do stack. You can check their stats underneath their name. They are getting all 4 buffs at once. So you really got to harp on the fact that they need those orders every time there's a cooldown. I generally tell them to tab to their officer and give the heal order because it's much stronger, but a weak engineer order is better than no order at all, so you just do what you got. Thankfully, I got the East. I'm always talking over myself there. Like I said, it records other people's voices, just not mine. I like doing the eastern wall because it's, I know what it's called, siege under fire or something. But I don't like securing the culvert because it tends to get buggy. Even after they fix it, we managed to find a bug somewhere, like a troll is unattackable or something. It's frustrating. So I love having east as the second side quest. One thing differently I started doing than before, I used to preach not to use the catapults on the enemy down below at all. And the reason for that is every hit is killing the weak enemies first. Now it's going to kill the sappers and the archers before it kills the enemy commanders and berserkers down there. So if you're just launching like 3-4 shots down there, what I used to do is try to clear the enemies out a little bit. All you're doing is clearing out the weak ones, so you're getting entire waves of stronger enemies coming up, which we used to see it all the time, and I used to do that, and I used to be mystified as to why we're getting up on the wall an entire wave of just commanders, which you get, 10 enemy commanders scaling the wall at once, and then right after that you get another wave of commanders. It's pretty much the walls, but you're going to lose soldiers. Super frustrating. So then after I stopped doing that, I just said no catapults on the enemies at all, which works. But an even easier thing, and we had to do this when we'd underman this, is you clear out just the right side, just that right column. You have both 2 people on catapults aiming just at that right side, and if you get them all killed completely, you can see down there most of them are dying. That way, on the wall team, they only really have to defend one side of the wall, which is awesome. Ooh, flanking foe, that's what it's called. That's an easy one. But you only, that way, if you're doing that right and quick enough, you're only having to defend one wall, one side of the wall, half the wall. And 2 people on the wall can do that, which a lot of times I'll be running back and forth wherever I'm needed. I'll run up top, give the commander the heal order, chop some ropes and ladders, then I'll run down below to help speed things up or slow things down, or just offer my help down there. But this side quest is a pretty easy one. And one thing, whenever I'm on the wall, my team right here, I have a runekeeper that is for healing the banners and whatnot. I got a guard up there. Pretty much that's if things go really bad and you have to start calling aggro off stuff, then I like having a guard up there. But the most important are having some hunters up there. What I think is most important, because as you can see what I'm doing here, I'm cutting down ropes and ladders and DPSing the enemy at the same time. Kind of multitasking. A lot of times you kind of forget one or the other, but if you're keeping at it really quick, you can clear the wall and keep it empty for quite a long time. Actually, I don't even know why I'm cutting this side anymore. The enemy's not attacking up here, which is perfect. But yeah, that's why I like having hunters, because the range DPS, they can clear one side and DPS the other side. It works out pretty handy. Like I said, usually over this whole time, I'm giving orders, but we're asking, like, is everyone doing alright? I'm telling them, make sure you heal the laborers down below. I'm making sure, you're double checking, making sure everyone is in the right location. You don't want to find out you have 2 people in one spot and 8 in the other. That's a balance that isn't going to last very long. You're going to end up losing someone. One thing to keep in mind with this side quest, you can kind of read under flanking foe. In green it says siege supplies secured by Gimli or by laborers. You need to have 10 in order to get a platinum. Granted, you didn't lose any laborers or cadets. That green text needs to say 10 supplies secured. But even if you lose a laborer, and we had to do this last time, you can lose a laborer and still get a platinum if you secure 12 supplies. All that means is you'll have to kite the enemy for a longer period of time. You'll need to kite them, and after amount of time, it'll just keep racking up supplies. I'm not sure how high it goes before it completes, if there's a time limit, but I have gotten 12 and made up for a lost labor and still got a platinum, which is awesome. I just divide up for this side quest 4x4. I like to have 4 people by this place and 4 people at the culvert. Since the wall's only down to half getting attacked and there's 3 people up there, I just usually come down. We're at 1 out of 4 and we have 6 supplies secured by laborers. I consider that a pretty legit balance right there. So I just if you're at like 3 out of 4 and you only have 6, you need to slow down DPS, but we're doing pretty good here, so I came down just to help make sure that anyone that can heal is healing those laborers. They are very, very squishy, so you definitely want to be keeping an eye on them. This was a very good raid because there was a lot of like raid chat, I guess, going on. For people asking, like, was everyone doing all right? Is this going too quick, too slow? That's perfect. If you're in a raid where everyone's quiet and not really paying attention, which happens quite a bit, unfortunately, then that's just kind of a huge bummer when that happens. But this one, everyone was really trying hard. I hadn't ran the raid in a few days, so A lot of people, it filled up pretty quick as soon as I advertised it, and everyone was really hoping for those platinums. Yeah, right here, I think at this point in time, I'd started shouting about how maybe kite a bit, because we're at 8 supplies secured, and we're at 3 out of 4. So I make it a point this time, kind of control the enemy. Don't let them beat on any labors so that they lose health, but don't kill them too quickly, because at this point in time, you want to make sure you have 10. When you're at 3 out of 4, if you have 10, then it's just like a nuke them as quick as you can. Actually, in the chat there, you can see someone saying to start kiting them. But we're at 10 right there, so now it's just a matter of burning them down as quick as you can. One thing I've noticed that was nice here is people were plopping those tripwires all over the place, which I tell them to do. I don't say just put them at the front. Say scatter them around a bit, because those laborers are going to be running back and forth, and the chances of them tripping over another one once their immunity is worn off is pretty good, and it's just a huge helping hand. So rather than right at the front spam it with tripwires and caltrops, I say put tripwires all over the place. And the last wave is west, which I would think the west as a final side quest is super easy. There's no big boss. It's pretty much Vanguard Defilers, just slightly different. No boss is pretty much it. It's in essence the exact same quest. If you're good with the shot, you can get a whole bunch of these enemy catapults with just one shot. You can get like up to 4, maybe 6. I don't think 6, but I have gotten 4 with one shot, which is awesome. But usually it's just 2 or 3. Sometimes I'll have, especially for this part, I'll have one person helping me crank, like load the powder, load the shell, and help me crank just so I can fire out there and try to clear that one side as quick as I can. It's awesome when it gets cleared from the get-go. A lot of times it doesn't pan out that way, but when it does, it is awesome. Makes the wall so much easier. Oh yeah, shells in the air it's called. I generally put someone as target assist, 2 or 3, sometimes I'll have 3 people as target assist up there, just so that when one of those Orc Siege guides pops up, everyone can just tab over and burn them down. That's the thing with this side quest is Orc Siege guides come up, and they need to be killed pronto, because they drop things called White Hand Banners. And I'm going, like, if my audio recorded, I wouldn't even have to do this commentary track. I would just let it talk, because I'm pretty much saying the exact same thing, but I'm going over the importance of, you know, get those siege guides, those orc siege guides, right away. If they make it back by our banners, they'll drop their white hand banners, and that's when things go south.
I got one target me.
Another thing you can see me doing here, it's the boring job. It's where you have to pick up supplies up on top of the tower, run down here into the Hornburg, and drop them off at these yahoos standing right by the door. They ain't doing anything. It's a bummer because you don't gain any merit for doing this, but if you don't have people doing it, you'll lose merit, so it's one of those sort of things where just make sure you're doing it. I'm not sure if one person is enough. 2 people is definitely enough, and two people with me taking breaks every now and then to give orders and to tear down the white hand banners and all that stuff. So definitely, maybe if you do one person that works too, but I use 2 just to be certain because often I'll stop just to help tear down those white hand banners or DPS some of the siege guides real quick. I do enjoy this side quest because the barricades can go right on the wall. I put them just anywhere, and there's no dividing up the teams at all. It's just burn everything down as quick as you can. One thing you can do is while you're carrying the supplies, you can give the commanders orders, you can tear down the white hand banners, all that stuff. They don't interrupt each other. You don't lose these supplies by interacting with anything, which is great.
Target.
There's a white hand banner right there. How did I just run by that? I would not have ran by that. I just saw that just now for the first time. That would have made me nervous. I would have stopped immediately to tear that thing down. Surprised that thing got torn down in time. I think once they're planted, you really only have about 10 seconds before you start taking merit loss. So it's generally, don't ignore those white hand banners one bit. If they pop up, you take that stuff, you stop what you're doing and tear down that banner as quick as you can. I see a couple people repairing banners, our banners down there, which is awesome. That's one thing I forget often is to tell people to check banners. It's a big part of it. If you ignore those things, don't regenerate health at all, so any damage they take that goes unchecked just compiles, so definitely be checking those every now and then. I mean, you have like 10 people on the wall, so you can always spare a few to repair stuff. And you have a couple people on those white hand banners, they go down instantly, which is great.
Center wall one.
Bam, another platinum. I love the mark.
Great job.
Now it's just a matter of killing everything. I still usually have people cut down the banner or the ropes and ladders at this point in time. You don't need to, but the mayhem of that last quest, I generally have people cut them down and just use rock drops constantly on them. It just controls the wall a bit, and then I run up top and wreck hell with the catapult as much as I can. Yeah, a lot of people, you'll hear it a lot that people will go for an east or west start, and they definitely are easier. But the only downside I found to that, and it changes almost every time there's an update or a patch, they tinker around with the quests a little bit and make something either way easier or way harder. And as of now, right before the Central Gondor update, that's when I recorded this the day before it released. The hardest quest is Flanking Foe, I believe, or is it Siege Under Fire? It's where the center wall is the second side quest. It is a nightmare because you get enemies down below, just like the quest we did here where it was on the east. It's almost the identical quest, but you also get a huge ton of ads up on the towers. And it's generally, unless you have a super DPS crew that, knows the side quest well, you're almost guaranteed to either get overwhelmed down below or overwhelmed on either the two center wall towers or just overwhelmed on the wall, because you can really only allocate 1 or 2 people for the wall. It's a nightmare every time I do it. I haven't figured out a good pattern for it yet. I've even done it where we eliminate almost all of the enemy down below, just so that the wall is that much easier, and since there's people on the towers, I'll just take out the coming catapults while I'm up there. And that has no real problems, but we just get so overwhelmed with ads on the towers and down below that people can't keep up, and often we'll either get a platinum on it but lose soldiers on the wall, or we will sometimes even still lose the entire raid. Like the Legolas or Gimli or Aragorn will get killed because there's so many ads, and it's a sort of deal where if you don't completely wipe out like an entire wave of enemies, like side quest enemies, you'll still keep getting more and more and more, and it's just a compiling effect. And I've seen it where we'll be done with the waves on the wall and the enemy won't be attacking the last wall yet, but we'll have about 30 to 40 enemies running around, and those are the high like 70k morale enemies just swarming everything, and they hit really hard and people are dying constantly. It's a nightmare. It's much harder than starting on the center wall, so which is why I started trying to go for a center wall start. And like the last one I recorded, one person got 2 gold drops, which actually has happened to me before, which is great. It happens more often than I thought. And then I quickly try to run down and run out into the enemy crowd. There's an invisible wall out there, unfortunately, so you can't actually do it. You can get about halfway to the enemies out there. Which some people are surprised with the gold drops there. I've seen it where there's, I think in one raid I saw 5 gold first stage symbols drop, and like 2 gold jewelry, so 7 gold drops in one raid, which was great. But that's it. Thank you very much, everyone. That was a perfect run.